Values and norms are symbolic culture in thought and action. When we know the values of a particular group and see how individuals are controlled by its social norms, then we can appreciate their beliefs and ideals and find the evidence of these throughout their everyday lives. Values are the set of shared beliefs that a group of people considers to be worthwhile or desirable in life. In other words, what is good or bad, right or wrong, beautiful or ugly. They articulate the essence of everything that a cultural group cherishes in its society. For instance, most Americans value the equality and individual freedoms of democracy. But there's not always widespread agreement about which values should represent a society, and values may change or new values may emerge over time. For example, workers' loyalty to their company was once much more important than it is now. In today's economy, workers realize that they may be downsized in times of financial trouble, or that they may change careers over a course of their lifetime and then feel less obligation to an employer. Norms are the rules and guidelines regarding what kinds of behavior are acceptable. They develop directly out of a culture's value system. Whether legal regulations or just social expectations, norms are largely agreed upon by most members of a group. Some norms are formal, which means that they are officially codified and explicitly stated. These include laws, like making it illegal to speed in a school zone or drink before you turn 21. Other formal norms include the rules for playing basketball or the requirements for membership in your college's honor society, the rights secured by the amendments of the U.S. Constitution, and the behavioral prescriptions conveyed in the Ten Commandments. Despite the relative authority of formal norms, they're not always followed. Other norms are informal, meaning that they are implicit and unspoken. For instance, when we wait in line to buy tickets for a movie, we expect that no one will cut in front of us. Informal norms are so much a part of our assumptions about life that they are embedded in our consciousness. They cover almost every aspect of our social lives, from what we say and do to even how we think and feel. Though we might have difficulty listing all the norms that are part of everyday life, most of us have learned them quite well. They are simply just the way things are done. Often it's only when norms are violated, like when somebody cuts in line, that we recognize that these norms exist. And norms can be broken down further into 3 types. Folkways are the ordinary conventions of everyday life about what is acceptable or proper and are not always strictly enforced. Folkways are the customary ways that people do things, and they ensure smooth and orderly social interactions. Examples are standards of dress and rules of etiquette, like in most places wearing flip-flops with a business suit and eating with your fingers from the buffet line is just not done. When people do not conform to folkways, they are thought of as peculiar or eccentric, but not necessarily dangerous. Mores are norms that carry a greater moral significance and are more closely related to the core values of a cultural group. Unlike folkways, mores are norms to which practically everyone is expected to conform. Breaches are treated seriously and in some cases can bring severe repercussions. Such mores as the prohibition of theft, rape, and murder are also formalized, so that there's not only public condemnation for such acts, but also strict laws against them. Taboos, actually a type of more, are the most powerful of all the norms. We sometimes use this word in a casual way to indicate maybe like a forbidden subject, but as a sociological term, it holds even greater meaning. Taboos are extremely serious. Sociologists say that our sense of what is a taboo is so deeply ingrained that the very thought of committing a taboo act, such as cannibalism or incest, evokes strong feelings of disgust or even horror. Norms are specific to a culture, time period, and situation. What are folkways to one group might be mores to another. For instance, public nudity is accepted in many cultures, whereas it's not only frowned upon in American culture, but it's also illegal in most instances. At the same time, Americans do permit nudity in such situations as strip clubs or nudist resorts, allowing for a kind of moral holiday from the scriptures of imposed norms. At certain times, such as Mardi Gras and spring break, mild norm violation are tolerated. Certain places may also lend themselves to the suspension of norms. Think Las Vegas and the slogan, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." Similarly, what would be considered murder on the city streets might be regarded as valor on the battlefield. And we're probably all aware of how the folkways around proper etiquette and attire can vary greatly from one generation to the next. 50 years ago, girls were just starting to wear jeans to school. Now, they come to school in all sorts of casual attire, like pajamas and slippers. Sanctions are a means of enforcing norms. They include rewards for conformity and punishments for violations. Positive sanctions express approval and may come in the form of a handshake, a smile, praise, or perhaps even an award. Negative sanctions express disapproval and may come in the form of a frown, harsh words, or perhaps a fine or incarceration. Sanctions help to establish social control, ensuring that people behave to some degree in acceptable ways and promote social cohesion. There are many forms of authority in our culture, from the government and police to school administrators, work supervisors, and even parents. Each has a certain amount of power that they can exercise to get others to follow their rules. So when someone is caught violating a norm, there's usually some prescribed sanction that will then be administered, serving as a deterrent to that behavior. But equally important in maintaining social order is the process of socialization by which people internalize these norms. For instance, in 1983, the U.S. Department of Transportation pioneered the slogan, "Friends don't let friends drive drunk." A few years later, the term designated driver was introduced to the popular lexicon. Over the years, these slogans have helped change the way we think about our personal responsibility for others, with nearly 80% of Americans now claiming that they have taken action to prevent someone from driving while intoxicated. What began as an external statement of social mores quickly became our own personal sense of morality. We're often unaware of the extent to which our own conscience keeps us from violating social norms in the first place. If we have internalized norms, then outside sanctions are no longer needed to make us do the right thing. Social control then frequently looks like self-control and is taught through the socialization process by family, peers, the media, and religious organizations, among others.